One of the most frequently asked questions that my students have for me, and I think one of the questions that is most concerning for a lot of singers is, where does vocal damage begin? How do I know if I'm just practicing and, just really stretching and pushing my vocal cords to grow stronger? And where does it start to where I could actually potentially damage something? Let's talk about that today. When is it strain and where does the pain begin? Hi and welcome to today's video. In case you don't know me yet, my name is Freya and I'm a professional singer and vocal coach from Germany. I have had to sing a lot, like a lot of times where I had to sing a lot. Teaching 10 hours every week and then singing 3-4 gigs every week. It's a lot of vocal work, and of course your voice will get tired at some point. This is when, of course, good technique comes in. You can totally prevent damage if you sing with a good technique. But let's talk about, how do you know when are you damaging your voice and when are you just growing your voice? We of course don't just want to get stuck doing things that are just like easy all the time. You do want to maybe expand your range and you want to sing higher and you want to start belting and sing high in head voice. And that does create some strain sometimes, which is normal. That doesn't mean it's always easy. And you might be vocally tired, but there's a big difference between just tired or really causing strain, potentially damage if you do this for a longer time. So let's talk about strain. Strain is something that is just a temporary thing. You practice a lot, you practice high, you practice loud, you practice belting, you do something that's very demanding for your voice, and you feel, number one, you feel your muscles hurting. It's almost like back in your throat. It's almost like you yawned too much or something. Those are the muscles. Those are not usually your vocal cords. It's your pharyngeal area, it's your larynx, it's just the muscles have worked. And a lot of times that is just the sign that, you used muscles that you don't really use every single day. In singing, we use muscles that we don't necessarily use the same way when we just speak every day. Another sign that it's just strain and not damage yet is that the next day you're usually better. It does get better. Even after a few hours of resting, your voice is a lot better. You might get hoarse immediately after trying to belt those high pitches or doing some of those exercises or singing through a song a couple times. And there are songs that I personally, when I sing through them twice or 3 times in a row, I am very tired vocally. And that is normal. There are things that are really just hard for your voice. It's just like an athlete. There are things you're not going to do 25 times in a row any given day. And then there are things you can do over and over and over again. They don't really cause you to strain or be tired. So if vocal rest after a day or so makes it all better, then probably there is no damage. Another sign is if your speaking voice still works properly, then that's a good sign. Now, if your speaking voice is affected and you're very, very hoarse, you can't even if you try to focus, you can't even produce a clear pitch anymore when you speak, that is not a good sign. Now let's talk about, when does actually potential damage begin? So when you start feeling actual pain, it's not just that you're feeling your muscle, it's almost like you're sore, but there's actual pain. And you actually feel your vocal cords hurt. That means while you vocalize, while you speak, it's very uncomfortable. It's actually a burning sensation as soon as you use your vocal cords. Then you have overdone it with your vocal cords. And that's where it gets a little bit dangerous, because those are very, very delicate. There are other muscles that are not as delicate, but your vocal cords can't really take a lot of beating. Another sign is if your voice does not improve after a day or so of vocal rest. So if the next day it's just as bad, you are not getting any clearer in your voice, that is not a good sign. Then you should not sing on top of that. So if you are still hoarse and strained and you feel like something is hurting, don't continue singing. That's the worst thing you can do, because if you continue singing with already overloaded vocal cords it's almost like you have a blister and you continue walking on it, it's just gonna burst. It's gonna hurt so much more. And the healing process is just going to be tenfold. Another sign is if your speaking voice is also greatly affected. So if even on the next day or 2 days after you experienced that pain in your voice, it is still painful to speak and you still cannot produce a clear tone, that is not a good sign. I would say if that persists for a few days, you should have your voice checked by an ear, nose, and throat specialist. It's always better to be safe than sorry. And here are the things you need to avoid at all costs that cause vocal damage in the first place. If you hear a lot of breathiness in your voice, if it's unintentional, and you are pushing on top of the breathiness, you're trying to sing very loud, but you hear a lot of breathiness, that puts a lot of strain on your vocal cords, and that can cause very quick damage. Unsupported, loud singing anywhere in your vocal range, whether it's really high or really low, the less you support, so the less dense the air is that makes your vocal cords vibrate, the more you're having to push air against your vocal cords, massive amounts of air, which is what causes that breathiness a lot of times. Your vocal cords just don't efficiently close, so it's almost like you're creating all this friction of air moving through, and instead of translating that air into vibration, it just moves through unused, and it just creates all this friction on your vocal cords, which of course it's almost like, creating that blister, which potentially could become a vocal nodule. Another thing that is really, really bad that often can cause problems is when you don't breathe deeply. So inefficient breathing, when you keep taking very small breaths and they're not very open. So every time you hear a lot of that also creates friction in your vocal cords, plus that prevents you from having better support. So good posture and expansion around your ribs does create better support. Another warning sign is unintended hoarseness. So when you sing, and a lot of times you will hear vocal fry and like a hoarse sound, but you're not trying to do this on purpose. That is not a good thing. That means your vocal cords don't close efficiently. You need to work on that. You need to really work on focusing on having a clear tone. So be very mindful about these warning signs. Whenever you hear that hoarseness, that roughness in your voice without being intentional about it, if it just can't be eliminated, that's not a good sign. If that persists, you need to get checked out. Let me know in the comments, have you experienced vocal damage, or has it just always been strain and it got better after a short while? Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Check out my website, masteryourvoice.tv. I have lots of free goodies there, free courses, free video series that you can go through to help you attain a better technique so you don't damage your voice. Have a great day, and until next time, always keep a song in your heart and always keep on singing.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved